Thousands of talented developers are thrown out onto the street, historic studios with decades of legacy are closed overnight, and multi-hundred-million-dollar projects are quietly buried in corporate tax write-offs. When executives step up to earnings calls, they parrot the same rehearsed excuses: post-pandemic normalization, shifting consumer habits, unprecedented market headwinds. But they always refuse to admit the glaring financial reality staring them in the face. The modern AAA gaming industry built a catastrophic, self-inflicted business model. By inflating development budgets past $200 million per game, publishers turn game development into a volatile gamble. And to protect those astronomical budgets, executives handed creative control over to activist consulting groups, corporate PR firms, and focus groups.
The co-founder of Sweet Baby Inc. proudly explains the method that she uses to force bosses at game studios to censor, alter, and diversify game projects she feels are problematic, terrify them, aka threaten them with the anger of the cancel culture mob. Okay, let's listen to what's said.
If you're a creative working in AAA, which I did for many, many years, put this stuff up to your higher-ups, and if they don't see the value in what you're asking for when you ask for consultants, when you ask for research, go have a coffee with your marketing team and just terrify them with the possibility of what's going to happen if they don't give you what you want.
Instead of delivering deep mechanics, compelling worlds, and fearless storytelling, publishers began using $70 products to lecture their own customers on hyper-specific political agendas.
Best part is, while Tash is pounding that snake's nose, she's still holding the ruby in her other hand. Maker's panties, I was so proud. Ah, shit. They're still holding it. Sorry.
What are you doing?
Pulling a barb. So when one of us screws up and we know we've screwed up, we do a quick 10 to put it right. Pulling a barb.
The market response has been slow but brutal and undeniable. Gamers are actively rejecting preachy sanitized products, and the entire corporate gaming apparatus is being forced into a violent financial reality check. To understand why the gaming industry is collapsing under its own weight, you have to look at how the economics of game development fundamentally broke down over the last decade. 15 years ago, a major studio could develop a blockbuster game in 2 years for $20, maybe $30 million. If the game missed its sales target, it was a disappointment, but it didn't bankrupt the company. Studios could still afford to take creative risks, push boundaries, and appeal to distinct subcultures. Today, a simple AAA title takes 5 to 7 years, if not more, to make, and routinely costs between $200 and $300 million before marketing. At that scale of capital expenditure, a game cannot merely be profitable. It has to be a monster. Multi-billion-dollar success just to break even on corporate overhead. This financial pressure created a culture of absolute terror in executive boardrooms. Instead of trusting experienced game designers to make fun games for their core players, executives sought insurance policies. They aligned their projects with corporate investment scorecards, hired third-party narrative consultants, and prioritized social messaging over core gameplay mechanics. They attempted to replace genuine art and entertainment with sanitized, focus-tested political posturing, and in doing so they created a machine that burns hundreds of millions of dollars while pleasing nobody. The system collapse we are witnessing across the AAA landscape rests on 4 distinct structural mechanics. The first pillar is budget bloat and the one-flop ruin. When a game costs $250 million, the math behind studio survival changes completely. Under the old mid-budget model, a studio could release 3 games, have one perform average, one fail miserably, and one become a breakout hit that funded the next cycle. Under the current AAA model, a single commercial failure erases years of corporate revenue and guarantees immediate mass layoffs, just the way we've been seeing for the past 3 or 5 years. Because production cycles now stretch over 6 years, studios are forced to guess what culture and consumer tastes will look like over half a decade in advance. By the time these hyper-expensive, slow-moving ships finally reach the market, the cultural conversation has moved on, leaving publishers holding a multi-hundred-million-dollar product that feels hopelessly out of touch on day one, even on pre-release. The workers on the studio floor are then forced to absorb the penalty for executive mismanagement through annual layoff cycles. This brings us to the second pillar, which is ideological scorecards and the death of creative friction. To mitigate risk and secure institutional capital, major publishers spend years chasing internal environmental, social, and corporate governance metrics. On paper, these initiatives were sold as benign corporate modernizing. In practice, they created a lucrative industry of external consulting agencies and internal sensitivity readers who were given structural veto power over game design. Writers were instructed to treat dialogue not as a tool for character conflict or world building, but as a platform for moral lecturing. Compelling moral ambiguity was replaced by preachy, woke monologues. Flawed, abrasive characters were sanitized so they sounded like HR representatives speaking in safe corporate buzzwords. Traditional themes of heroine struggle and raw human flow were systemically scrapped in favor of heavy-handed social agendas.
Sit down. You beat them.
I never laid a finger on Tamara. Not once.
And on Anna.
That's another story. She always knew how to spark my ire.
Your wife. How'd she make you angry? Too much salt in the soup? Socks never darned?
20 years we've known each other. She's seen me drunk and sober. She was there to greet me when I returned the victor. She was there to patch me up in defeat. Like no other, she knew where to press, where to pinch, so it would hurt.
You beat her? For that? For criticizing you?
Oh, Witcher, you haven't a clue, have you? Well, perhaps I shall tell you about it one day. One day, but not today. Next. It only got worse. I awoke at sunset, not knowing how many days had passed. Thought it was all a ploughing, drunken nightmare. And then I went to the bedchamber, and Anna was not there. Instead, there was blood everywhere. I knew she'd miscarried. My breath short, my throat locked. I neared the bed and saw it. It lay there, a tiny thing, defenseless, on bloodied sheets, dead. And it was my doing.
Remember how we turned the gals against Fred using Discord? We can do the same thing in combat and trick our enemies into turning on each other. Trust no one. You're not playing fair with that armor, buddy. Carrying a baseball bat here, not a bazooka.
Should have thought this through before assaulting justice personnel.
You know that's not what happened. You're gaslighting me. You attacked first.
There is a fundamental difference between organic human tolerance and forced corporate activism. Most rational adult gamers have zero issues with diverse characters under fundamental human rights. What they despise is having a $70 piece of entertainment turned into an ideological lecture hall by out-of-touch corporate suits who look down on their own audience. This leads directly to the third pillar, the myth of the modern audience and the consumer rejection. Corporate consultants convinced game publishers that an elusive, hyper-progressive modern audience was waiting to buy video games if only those games were sanitized enough. Publishers fell for the pitch. They redesigned iconic franchises like Halo,
You don't seem as impressed as the rest of your crew.
No, Sergeant Major, I'm not. Takes more than fancy armor and a good PR campaign to impress me.
altered established characters' lore, and toned down dark, gritty themes to cater to a demographic that never actually showed up at the cash register. The actual gaming audience, the people who buy consoles, purchase $70 plus games and play for 20 hours a week, did the one thing corporate boards never even anticipated. They simply just stopped buying their games. When preachy focus-tested games launched to dismal player counts and massive financial losses, executives were left stunned. Over the last 3 years, we witnessed a string of high-profile financial disasters where projects costing hundreds of millions of dollars collapsed on arrival, just like Concord, because they alienated their primary customer base. Meanwhile, games that just completely ignored corporate political trends, titles focused purely on deep mechanics, unapologetic action, traditional world building, or fearless artistic vision, shattered sales records and dominated the cultural space. The market delivered a loud, clear, and brutal verdict. Gamers buy games for fun, escapism, and challenge, not to be preached to by multi-billion-dollar conglomerates. Which brings us to the fourth pillar, the great financial correction. We're now witnessing the beginning of the pendulum swinging violently back. Boardrooms are finally realizing, hopefully, that ideological consulting firms don't bring in customers, they alienate them. Corporations operate on profit, and when preachy games lose hundreds of millions of dollars, the spreadsheets force a reality check. Publishers are quietly cutting ties with narrative consulting groups, dismantling internal activist departments, and canceling pre-production projects that relied on focus-tested political agendas. At the same time, studios are realizing that $250 million budgets are just unsustainable. The industry is being forced to shrink project scopes, return to tighter development cycles, and refocus on what actually makes games work: mechanical depth, artistic integrity, and respecting customers' intelligence. The era of corporate sanitization and forced political pandering in gaming was an expensive, decade-long corporate detour. The market is aggressively correcting the mistake, and the publishers that survive will be the ones who remember that their job is not to lecture the gamers, but to entertain them. If you want honest, analytical deep dives into the business, culture, gaming, and economic realities shaping the games industry, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We break down industry mechanics and corporate decision making every week, so make sure to hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. Drop a comment below. Do you think the era of preachy woke AAA games is officially over, or do publishers still have to learn the hard way? Let's discuss it down below.